Burgz, did you get more than 4 out of 8 last week? Why, yes, Teddy. Yes, I did. What's going on, guys? Burgz here from The Casual Athlete, back at it again for another week of tips and predictions. This week, it's round 15, and we are well and truly into the halfway mark of the season. Origin 1 is over, and there was plenty of action across the weekend of round 14. But before we get into our video, guys, just a reminder to like and subscribe to the channel. We bring out so much content each and every week just for you guys, so make sure that you hit that subscribe button and hit the notification bell to make sure that you don't miss out on any of our latest content. Now, let's have a look at how I went last week, guys. And I've got to say, I was pretty pleased with some of the tips we had last week. 5 out of 8 tips correct. And it started on Wednesday night in Origin. And I know I'm wearing my Blues jersey today, guys, but I am a little bit disappointed in the effort that was displayed by the New South Wales team, more on the discipline side of things. I know the big talking point was Joseph Suaalii's sin bin, but I just think that we need to kind of move past that and trying to focus on Origin 2. And yes, I believe the game was over 7 minutes into the game. And my opinion on it is that you should probably not sin bin him in that point, just due to the amount of money around that part of the game. And a lot of people turn up to see that game as well. 80,000, it's the biggest crowd you're going to get for an Origin game this season as well, I think, aside from the Melbourne crowd. Man, I'm really disappointed in the way that all shaped out, especially being a Blues fan. But yeah, it's just something that we've got to live with and move past, and the Madge era didn't get off to the best start, unfortunately. Moving on to the NRL games, the Dragons were absolutely dominant on Friday night. The Tigers didn't really show much in that second half. They only completed 4 sets in the second half, and that's pretty, schoolboy era stuff. I just think the Tigers once again lost their way, and Benji's under a lot of pressure once again to get them back into a winning formula. They did show a little bit of it at the start of the season, but it's really faded away in recent weeks, and I think they can't be really happy with the performances that they are putting up at the moment. The Rabbitohs getting a win 1-12. I didn't hit on many of my margins this week, and I've got to say that the Dragons absolutely destroyed the Titans, but I did tip them in this game. I did think that they would go on and win it. It's good to see guys like Latrell having a good game, especially in the lead up to Origin. I think that New South Wales need to pick him if we are going to be competitive. I feel like it's the move that Queensland least want us to make, and Latrell is always a bully. He needs to be in that side to bully a few of those players around. Otherwise, there's no one really in that outside backs for me that's much of a game breaker. Latrell could be a potential match winner if you can put him into that New South Wales side. For the Warriors, they got a win against my Cowboys, and I expected this. Look, I expected it to be a bit closer than it actually ended up being. I think the Cowboys, once we got into that last 10 minutes, I expected the Cowboys to put on like 3 or 4 tries to make it a little bit closer, but they didn't. The Warriors just really played to the 80th minute, and the Cowboys, they looked gassed. They had six days to prepare for this game. I'm not making excuses for them, but we did also have the most guys backing up from Origin as well. We had 6 players selected for Origin. It's tough to play a midweek game and then play on the weekend, but good on the Wars. They're on a decent winning streak at the moment, and it's looking pretty formidable, and I'm liking their matchup this weekend with the Storm. Going to be a juicy one. For the Broncos, I just think that they're really in a rut right now. They haven't got their defense right. They showed glimpses in the first half where they can be that really good attacking side, but I think without Reynolds, Ezra's really struggling to find a footing in any of the games that he's in. I know they've got Jock Madden in there and he's doing okay, but I just think that Ezra needs that real controlling half in order to be able to assert himself into the game. They didn't have Walsh in this one as well. I think it hurt them in the attacking department, and once again they conceded another 20 points, and it was enough for the Sharks to get away with the victory. For the Storm, yes, they got the win here. I expected it to be a bit more, and they let a few tries in towards the end of the game, and the Knights made it look close, but I just think that the Storm were always going to have a bit more in the tank than the Knights on this one. I just thought that even though the Storm had guys backing up from Origin, they're a champion side and you can't count them out. So good to see them get the win there. For the Panthers, they dominated Manly. They weren't going to lose to Manly 2 times in one season, let's be serious. And they also have only lost twice off a loss in the last 5 years as well. So they've only lost back-to-back twice in the last 5 years. Stunning stuff for me. So, I had to go with Penrith on that one. Again, thought it would be closer than it actually ended up being, just with the amount of outs that Penrith actually have. But yeah, Manly didn't really turn up, and Garrick was horrible with the boot. Would have put them in the game actually if he was. I should take that back. Manly weren't horrible, but they, um, I think, just let himself down in the kicking department. Would have made it a lot closer there, Ruben Garrick. But he's normally a very good, reliable kicker, and I'm sure he'll shake that one off. And Parramatta, man, I thought they were primed to go on a bit of a run, and I've got to say I'm really upset with the performance that they put in on Monday. They just don't know how to put the foot on the throat, do they? Like, the Dogs had a bloke in the sin bin, and Parramatta were up 8 during that moment. And that's the time where most good teams will put you to the sword. They'll, stamp on your throat and never let you back up. And Para just seemed to not throw much at them and made errors at the same time. And it just compounded in Parramatta, not being able to defend errors on the back of that. And the Dogs waltzed their way back into the game, and that right side was on fire tonight. I think Dejan Arce had a night to forget, and Parramatta, it's definitely one that they let slip. So I'm very interested to see how they back up this week against the Roosters. It's another tough game for Parramatta, and you got to think that they've got to start winning some games if they want to be in contention for some final spots. They were only 2 wins out of the 8 last week. Now they are 3 wins out of the 8 right now. So, yeah, getting a bit tougher for Parramatta. But let's move on to this week and see what the matchups are. Before we go into the matchups for round 15, let's just update you guys on the TCA tipping comp that we are running with NRL.com at the moment. And we do have North Sydney Bears still in first place. We're holding a commanding lead with 74 points. We do have Jeff from Jay Fitz on 73, just behind him, and Corn on the Cowboys. So we do have 3 outright guys up the top there in 1, 2, and 3. Keep putting in your tips, guys, each and every week. I do update everyone about the tipping comp in my videos. Still working on a prize for the end of year, guys, and you will hear about that. But let's move on to the matchups for round 15. First matchup of round 15 is the Battle of the Big Fish, where we have the Sharks taking on the Dolphins at PointsBet. Now, there's only been one game played between these two teams, and the Dolphins won that one 36-16 in May last year. And it's two teams in some pretty good form at the moment. You'd probably say that these two teams are going to be in contention for those finals positions, especially being second and fourth on the ladder at the moment. But I've got to say the outlook for this game is very interesting. The Sharks, they got a pretty good win on the weekend against a semi-depleted Broncos side, but they also had some outs of their own. Nico Hines didn't back up. And then for the Dolphins, well, they had the week off, so you got to say that they will be pretty fairly rested for this one. I do expect Nico Hines to come back in. The big one for the Dolphins for me is I'm hearing that Tom Flegler will be missing potentially the rest of the season with his shoulder injury at the moment. He can't get it right. The doctors and physios aren't exactly sure what's going on there. He may need another surgery for that one, and that will be the end of his 2024 season. Sad for the Dolphins. New signing as well, was probably going to play Origin this year. And sorry for Tommy Flegg, but he may have to sit out for the rest of the year. I like both teams right now. Both teams playing some really good football. In patches this year, we've seen, you could easily say that the Sharks were the best team over the first 10 rounds, and the Dolphins have been right there towards the top and the 8, and a lot of people keep underestimating them. And I am guilty of being one of those people. I thought they would actually take a back step this year from the form that we saw this year, but they have elevated, they have gone up a step, and I really enjoy that for the game as well. Just seeing a new team come in and excel, do really well. The Titans did that earlier on in their career in the NRL as well, and that's how they build fans, build a fan base, and people get behind them as well. So, but I do believe in this one. I think the Sharks get it done just because of the fact that they're at home, and I expect Nico Hines to come back in. They don't have too many outs as far as injuries are concerned as well, so they don't have to put too much effort towards that front. I'm going to go the Sharks 1-12. GIO Stadium is the venue for our first Friday night game of round 15, where the Raiders will be taking on the Cowboys. Now, over the last 10 games between these two teams, the Cowboys have the better record. They've won 6 out of those last 10 games. They are also on a 5-game winning streak against Canberra, and they've also won their last 3 games at GIO Stadium. So that was very interesting for me to note. For both teams, in terms of ins and outs, we do have the Origin players coming back for the Cowboys, or are expected to come back, in Murray Taulagi and Reece Robson. And then Jordan McLean should also be available for this game, as he missed last week with a minor calf injury. Then we also, on the Raiders side of things, we have Corey Horsburgh coming back in. weird for me right now, just being a Cowboys fan. I've got to say that we're our own worst enemy at the moment. Against the Warriors, we made errors again, really rudimentary errors, just kid stuff. And it's hurting me, guys. Like I can't just sit there and watch my team each and every week beat themselves. I just am running out of superlatives to describe the way the Cowboys are playing right now. It's just disappointing on a number of fronts. We let in way too many points, and then now we're actually going through a period where we can't score any points either. And I don't know how we had so many guys selected for Origin. Maybe it's because of injuries and things like that, but I thought Reese was outstanding in Origin, and we missed him dearly the other day. I'm not saying he would have made the difference against the Warriors, but he definitely would have made the middle of the field a lot more solid. So, yeah, for the Raiders, they had a week off and should be very rested for this game, and that's probably why I'm going to tip them as well. So, I just don't know if the Cowboys are up to it right now, especially going down to GIO Stadium. It's a tough place to go, and yes, we've had some success there in the past, but I'm not seeing enough from the Cowboys right now, and I think that's fair to say. You can't really just expect them to jump out of form, especially in a big away game like this. It's far from home. It's the middle of winter. It's going to be pretty cold, much colder than what the Cowboys are used to. So I'm going to go the Raiders in this one, 1-12. Friday night prime time brings with it a mouth-watering fixture with the Rabbitohs taking on the Broncos at a core stadium. Now, over the last 10 games between these two teams, it is split down the middle 5-5, although the Broncos have won the last two games between these two teams. Keeping in mind, though, that the Rabbitohs have been not that great for at least the last 20 rounds of the NRL season. I'm going to say 20, almost 25 rounds as it is now, 30 rounds since round 11 last year. Let's just make it that. As far as the outlook goes in terms of ins for both these teams, there's no one coming back for the Broncos at this point, as Reece Walsh will be out until round 17. Jesse Arthurs is still a couple of weeks away, and as is Adam Reynolds as well. And those are a couple of big outs at the moment. Jesse Arthurs, I know, probably the guy there that you wouldn't automatically think of, but he was phenomenal for them last year, especially in the grand final as well. He's one of their best players on the field. For the Rabbitohs, they get a massive in this week. Cameron Murray is due to come back for them, and on the back of a win to get a bit of the juices flowing, get a bit of the mojo back, that is welcomed in spades for the Rabbitohs. I like the fact that the Rabbitohs got a win on the weekend. I mean, I tipped it, and the Titans, let's be honest, haven't been the best opposition this year, but it was good to see guys like Latrell, Cook running really well. I thought Whiten had a very good end to the game. He sort of found his role, took a little bit of teething from him to find his natural place on the field in the current halves setup that they do have in Cody Walker and himself. So it's going to take a little bit of time for them to gel. And Jack is a phenomenal ball runner, so no doubt he will be able to find his place and be able to, contribute to this Rabbitoh side. Again, I think the defense was actually the biggest thing for them. Only conceding 12 points. I think that's what the big thing that the Rabbitohs will take away from that game. I just think the Broncos are in some real strife right now. They're not defending particularly well. They're not stepping up in the big moments in attack. A lot of their tries lately have come from either a bit of luck involved, a bit of a astonishing play from one member of the team, which is all you need a lot of the time, and they're just not seeing enough of it. I think Katoni Staggs also hurt himself the other day, and we'll have to wait to see about his knee as well. It was a bit of a bump, I think, but that's about it. I actually do like the Rabbitohs in this one. I think they're off the bottom of the ladder now, and they're keen to go on a bit of a run and show the rest of the competition that they can, make a run towards this final series, and especially on the back of Latrell. I mean, he was outstanding the other night. If he can have another game like he did against the Titans, I think the Broncos are in some real trouble. Yeah, I like the Rabbitohs in this one, 1-12. Super Saturday round 15 starts at Leichhardt Oval, where the Tigers will be taking on the Titans. Now, the Titans have won 8 out of the last 10 games against the Tigers, plus they are also on a 5-game winning streak against the Tigers. I know a lot of teams would probably have a decent winning streak over the Tigers, but it's pretty important to note at this stage of the game, especially for a Titans fan. A lot to be happy about this week going into this game. I think that the Titans, they haven't been terrible over the last month, and I know the form guide or the game last week wasn't exactly what you wanted from them. It was just unfortunate they couldn't get much going against the Rabbitohs, and they'll walk into this one with some confidence that they are playing some better football than the Tigers. And the Tigers, I spoke about it in the intro. I was extremely disappointed with their second half, especially completing 4 sets in 40 minutes. Not ideal if you want to win games of NRL football. I think and they also conceded 50 points, which means that they are out of the premiership race at this stage. Not that I thought that they were going to be in there to begin with, but it was their most disappointing performance of the season. And I think the Tigers, they all knew that. There's a lot going on at the club, a lot of noise right now. Players want out. They're not really an attractive club to play for right now. It's like, I'm a player, right? I'm probably not picking the Tigers to go to right now. But, we've got one guy going there next year, and hopefully Jerome Luai can turn it around in 2025. But I just don't want to see them at the bottom of the ladder anymore. I'm kind of over it, to tell you the truth. I don't mind the Tigers, and I think that whilst some team has to finish last, I just am sick of it being the Tigers. It can't be another team that I actually don't like as much. But I don't know. I'm going to go the Titans in this one. I think that they get a win here pretty comfortably, 13 plus. Over in Auckland at 5:30, we have the Warriors taking on the Storm. Now, over the last 10 games between these two teams, as we know, the Storm have won all 10. They actually have not lost to the Warriors since 2016. And the Warriors, they got oh so close earlier this year. Only a Xavier Coates buzzer beater stopped them from winning down in Melbourne this year. In terms of ins for both teams, the Warriors should welcome back Sean Johnson, and that is awesome to see him back at this point in time with a pectoral injury he's been out with for the last couple of games. And I do think in his absence, though, Tamari Martin has been outstanding. He had 4 try assists on the weekend, and he's been virtually unstoppable. And the Warriors have kind of found that form that saw them go into the finals last year and almost make it all the way to the grand final. I just think the Warriors have kind of galvanized together. They've really come together at this point. Their defense has gotten a lot stronger. Their attack is looking solid. I mean, I can't fault them right now. To tell you the truth, their month of football has probably been the best out of anyone in the NRL. For the Storm, they got a pretty regular win against the Knights last week. I thought they were going through the motions towards the end of the game, and that's why the Knights ended up putting some points on and made it look pretty close. But they're still a couple of weeks away from Ryan Pappenhausen, and that's one thing I thought that they would do. I think I mentioned in my tipping video a couple of weeks back that with the injury history that he's had, they will probably keep him out for another couple of weeks from his due date, just because he needs to be 100% ready to go for this finals run. They're going to be in a finals race again, the Storm. I don't know when it is the last time they missed the finals under Craig Bellamy. In this one, I'm actually going to lock the Warriors this week. That's right, they're going to be my Hills Cricket Academy lock of the week. I think the Wars are in some phenomenal form right now, and it's hard for me to see anyone stopping it right now. But if there is one team that I do think can stop them, it is the Storm. They did beat them earlier this year. Will they maintain the streak? We'll have to wait and see. Warriors, 1-12. Super Saturday round 15 comes to a grandstand conclusion when the Eels take on the Roosters at CommBank. Now, over the last 10 games between these two teams, the Roosters have the better record. They've won 8 out of the last 10 games against the Eels. A couple of ins for both teams. We should have Jarrad Rawir, Hargraves, and Connor Watson come back for the Roosters. And for the Eels, they should get Micah Sevo back, who missed last week's game. Plus, they should also get Ryan Madison back for this game as well. In terms of the outlook here, I do think the Roosters, after a week off, are looking the better team right now. There has been a sanction handed out towards Brandon Smith during the week, though. He did miss, I believe it was mid-season reviews as well. I'm not sure how you can miss that, but apparently he did. So they've shoved him with a breach notice, the Roosters. So there is a little bit of noise around there. For the Eels, in terms of the game that they played against the Dogs on the weekend, I was extremely just disappointed by. I know I'm saying disappointed a lot today, but I just think that the Eels completely dropped the ball. The game was right there on the weekend. I just think if you haven't got the nous to beat a team that's down to 12 players and you're up by 8, and you start going through the motions thinking, oh, yeah, we'll just wait out until the final whistle. That's what it looked like they were doing. It looked like they were waiting for the siren to sound. And they just kept, being very complacent, still dropping the ball, putting themselves under pressure, and they couldn't defend on that left side. I know Mike Acevo was out, and he normally defends on the left side, and Arcee got absolutely carved up by whether it be Stephen Crichton or Connor Tracy towards the back end of the game. It was just a mess at the moment, and you got to feel a little bit for Dejan Arcee. He doesn't normally play in the centres, and as we've always said, the centres is one of the hardest places to defend in the NRL right now. You've got to make such quick decisions. You've got to be right most of the time, and the good ones are right most of the time. And unfortunately for Arcee, it's not something that he does regularly. And a lot of players in that backline playing out of position. We had Blaze Taulagi on the wing. I just think Arcee at the centres position. Yeah, it just isn't coming together for Parramatta at the moment, despite Moses and Gutherson both being back in the side. I think they will put up a fight again this week against the Roosters. I just expect the Roosters to be nice and fresh for this one. Had a chance to get their Origin stars a nice rest as well. So I think that the Eels could get off to a quick start, but the Roosters might run them down in the end. I'm going to go the Roosters in this one, and I think they get it done pretty comfortably, 13+. Moving on to Sunday's games, we have the Seagulls taking on the Dragons at Brookvale this week. Now, over the last 10 games between these two teams, the Dragons have the better record. They've won 7 out of the last 10 games, and we all know earlier in the year that the Dragons got a win over the Seagulls, and it was a game that we all thought the Seagulls should have won. I remember it was Easter weekend, and I was pretty upset at the Seagulls that week for not getting the win there. As far as the outlook goes for both teams, no one really gets back into the side in terms of injuries. So both teams are going to be relatively unchanged. From last week, I loved what I saw from the Dragons. They came out of the second half and dominated from the word go. It's interesting to me, though. There's a couple little things I'd like to point out with Ben Hunt. When things don't go his way, he tends to drop his head a lot and rolls the eyes a bit. It definitely looks like he still doesn't want to be there right now, and I'm not exactly sure that keeping him there is still within the club's best interest, but he was phenomenal on the weekend because he's a champion player. I'm not liking the attitude when things don't exactly go according to plan at this stage. And also Lomax again, on the back of playing Origin for the first time on the weekend. Man, to come out and score 32 points in one game, grabbed a hat trick and kicked virtually, I think it was it 8 from 8 or 7 from 8? Ridiculous stuff. So, yeah, I like the Dragons a lot, but just think Manly, again, it's two difficult teams to tip. These guys haven't really changed since they played each other. They're the two most difficult teams in the competition to pick. You never know when they're going to pick up a win week to week. And I think this time, with the revenge aspect in mind, I think it should go to Manly. They are the $1.47 favourites, and especially being back at 4 Pines Park, I think they were embarrassed last week against Penrith, and the Dragons, well, they come off a win, so their attitude, has got to be a little bit, how good are we? That's my thinking anyway, but we'll see what happens. Manly, 1-12. Rounding out round 15, see what I did there, is the Knights taking on the Panthers. Now, over the last 10 games between these two teams, the Panthers have the better record. They've won 8 out of those last 10 games. They are also undefeated against the Knights since 2019. So, yeah, not a great matchup for the Knights. I mean, they finished it up last week with Melbourne, who they don't have a brilliant record against, although they had won the last couple of games against them. Now they move into Penrith, who they haven't beaten in 5 years. I like the Knights' effort playing right to the final whistle. I just think that at the moment, the way their team is shaped up, and I was pretty impressed with Fletcher Sharp on the weekend as well. He would have had 2 tries had he gone a little bit lower on one of the tries as well. Got held up. For Penrith, they should probably get Dylan Edwards back for this game, and we're having to wait to see about Liam Martin's ankle right now. Something he picked up the other week in Origin. He's currently in a moon boot, so have to wait and see there. But again, I thought Penrith was still very strong against Manly, and they always turn up against the Knights. They're continuously turning up, no matter who's in the black jersey at the moment. And I think Penrith are just too big of a side for the Knights. I know, again, Knights fans, you can get on me if you want. I know the Panthers are a depleted side right now. And yeah, you got to pick a few upsets this week. I already have picked 2 upsets this week, and unfortunately, the Knights aren't going to make me do a third. I know, again, it's another week where I'm probably not tipping the Knights. Hopefully, they prove me wrong. I think everyone enjoys watching Penrith lose, but I'm going to go the Panthers in this one, 13 plus. So that's it for this week's video, guys. Let me know what you think about my tips down in the comment section below. Please make sure that you like and subscribe to the channel. We bring out so much content each and every week, and I'll catch you on the next one.